Oh, jeez, there goes Holly again. Howling. Did you hear that? Juliana leaves. Holly goes crazy. Oh, she stopped. That's nice. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Holly. This is Martin Zender. Yesterday's show was a mess. I apologize for that. I was a bit distracted, and I felt like I was rushing through it. And if you folks got anything out of it, that's fantastic. It's a miracle. Oh, I look terrible. Now, I really appreciate your coming here every day, seeing what might happen, because that's what I do. Yes, I'm a little bit prepared, of course, but then the Spirit of God causes things to come to me, and I make connections, and it's exciting for me. And we're all just hanging on here, for dear life. And yet, we're the kinds of people God gives revelation to. It's crazy. But it's not crazy. It's the sanest thing. It's what God does. He does this. Last week, I wanted to finish up a thought I had last week that I introduced to you, but I didn't quite finish it about this thing with Christianity, because I don't know. Talking about pioneers, I might be the first one to diss Christianity. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Who cares? But I'm just thinking that as soon as I began doing this back in the late 80s, early 90s, using Christianity, saying that it's a false religion, even the people who were, noted to be into advanced truth, into the spiritual truth, well, into simple truth. When I say advanced truth, I don't mean that it's like E equals MC squared. I mean to say that truth is simple. It's advanced in that you have to drop the traditions in order to embrace the truth of God. That's an advanced thing because people love their traditions. So I started saying Christianity was an evil entity instead of Christendom. That was the outlet term. That was a term used by people to describe the official religion, Christendom. So that way they could protect this thing that has always been known as Christianity. Okay, but it soon became evident to me that Christianity was no better than Christendom. Christianity was Christendom. And I thought we need to stop obfuscating. That's what I said. I said that. No, nobody was in the room at the time. I said it out loud in an empty room. We must stop obfuscating. I'll never forget that day. It was great. It felt so good to use that word. I don't think I had ever used it before that day. So it is Christianity that's the problem. Oh, Clyde Pilkington had a great daily goodie from a few days ago, July 10th. Let me find this thing. Hang on a second. I got to go to my email program here. I'm doing this live. It's from July 10th. Where are you, Clyde? I forget the name of it even. But it was so good, and I wanted to make note of it, and I didn't. Oh, multitudes are not going with us. Listen to this. Clyde is quoting John Saunders. The name of this little daily email goodie from July 10th, sorry. See, I'm rushing again. I'm just a little distracted. I'm sorry. I got to slow down. That's my problem. Okay. Multitudes are not going with us. If we respond to the Lord's call to us today to leave our captivity in the Christian religious system and to give ourselves to Him that He might once again build His church, we should be aware that multitudes are not going with us. Most will stay where it is comfortable and where they are accustomed. That's the quote. Epic. Where they are comfortable and where they are accustomed to being. Now, Mr. Saunders, John Saunders there, quoted by Clyde Pilkington, is saying this in reference to leaving organized religion. But I will take it further, as I usually do, and I will say it not only applies to that, but it also applies to the snatching away. Multitudes are not going with us because the snatching away is a secret event, and it's as secret as Paul's evangel itself is, and we know how many people embrace that. Very, very few, a handful of people. So you expect to be lonely, you expect to be like the Wright brothers, and you expect, as a pioneer, to be out there where people think you're out there, but you're actually out there doing great and epic things. Now, I found that quote yesterday after the show. Of course, this is the telegram that the Wright brothers sent home after they had made their first flight at Kitty Hawk on December 17th, 1903. Here it is. Success. 4 flights, Thursday morning, all against 21-mile wind, started from level with engine power alone, average speed through air 31 miles, longest 57 seconds, inform press, home for Christmas. I love you, Orville. God, I love you, Orville. And they spelled his name wrong in the telegram. It says Orevelle. Orville, right? Oh my God. It's like on Jesus Christ's birth certificate. They spell his name wrong. Like Joseph Crest. Joseph Crest or something stupid. I know. I know Christ wasn't his last name, but it's just this humility. And the note here by the author, mistakes in the transmission had caused 57 seconds to become, or 59 seconds to become 57, and Orville's name to be misspelled. Catherine, the name of their sister, came in from school, looked at the telegram, and told Carrie, who was their housekeeper, to delay supper while she went to tell Lauren. Lauren was another Wright brother. You don't know there were 2 more Wright brothers. This is true. All right. I'm going to read from the book now. Thank you for attending here. Class, here we go. Success it most certainly was, and more. What had transpired that day in 1903, in the stiff winds and cold of the Outer Banks, in less than 2 hours' time, was one of the turning points in history, the beginning of change for the world far greater than any of those present could possibly have imagined. With their homemade machine, Wilbur and Orville Wright, thank you very much, had shown without a doubt that man could fly, and if the world did not yet know it, they did. Their flights that morning were the first ever in which a piloted machine took off under its own power into the air in full flight, sailed forward with no loss of speed, and landed at a point as high as that from which it started. Now, this next paragraph is illuminating. There were other people at this time attempting powered flight. They were failures, embarrassing failures. Being the kind of men they were, neither ever said the stunning contrast between their success and Samuel Langley's full-scale failure just days before. Samuel Langley was another one of the men who was attempting powered flight. The Wright brothers learned a lot from him. They also had to throw out his tables as being wrong. There is right and there is wrong. Right. And there is right and there is Langley. So his full-scale failure days before made what they had done on their own all the more remarkable. That's true. And here's the kicker. Not incidentally, the Langley project had cost nearly $70,000. The greater part of it public money. The government raised money for Samuel Langley. And the government was behind Samuel Langley. And the money of the government, the power of the United States government, and the hopes and dreams of the United States government was behind Samuel Langley. And just days before, the Wright brothers succeeded in anonymity with no government money or government support, barely the support of their family. Langley failed days before they succeeded. It's fantastic. And public money was also used here, whereas the brothers' total expenses for everything from 1900 to 1903, this includes their 3 trips to Kitty Hawk, their glider experiments, including materials and travel to and from Kitty Hawk, came to less than $1,000. That is over a 3-year period. That is $330 a year. A sum paid entirely from the modest profits of their bicycle business. This is great. They got nothing from the institution. Where did Jesus Christ learn all his truth? From God his Father. How much did it cost? How much did his education cost? You know, parents spend thousands of dollars sending their little brains full of mush into college, into theological seminaries, and it's an expensive education, and they come out stupider. They come out and they take off with their flying machines and they crash into the sea. Whereas you have people, I'll use myself as an example, no formal education. I'm a high school graduate. I went to college for 5 months and quit, and yet I have the scriptures in front of me. And this book cost me $16, and I have a concordance, but my father-in-law had given me that back in 1982, and so I began looking up words on my own, and it didn't cost me anything. So far, the investment there was $16. And the Wright brothers spent $300 a year, and they did it on their own. They did it from their own well of resolve, and they were not formally educated. They were homeschooled by their mama, and they loved their mama. And their mama, made them oatmeal in the morning, and it was just so domestic and so great. And people think that they need the power of the institutions that be, the powers that be, and their financial help. But no, we don't need any of that. In fact, real entrepreneurs refuse it. I mean, they go their own way, because as soon as you start taking money from an institution, then you're beholden to that institution. And God forbid that institution should become the source of your continuous money. I'm thinking of these poor pastors in charge of churches who are employed by the Assemblies of God or the Baptist councils or whatever, that they're beholden to them. They can't see truth, because then the institutions that are their lifeline, they will cut them off from their livelihood. If you live by the system, you die by the system. So you and I don't live by the system. I never have lived by the system. And you give me money to make sure I don't do anything for money. That's a fantastic situation. You give me money to make sure I do nothing for money. You want me to be freelance. You want me to sit here and read this, study this, get out my concordance, and do this and have independent thoughts, not independent from God, of course, God-inspired thoughts, so that I don't have to prostitute my talents out somewhere else, whether it's a organized religion or some other place where I have to write for the newspapers, or have a real job where I write for a magazine, or I do graphic design for some place. I don't have to prostitute my powers, because you have enabled me, just as the Wright brothers, to be an entrepreneur and an inventor, an adventurer. And you're the same way, and we're all just living on shoestrings. We're making it month by month. But again, this is the way God does it. I told you yesterday about Joseph and Mary. Greatest example ever. Jesus didn't go to any formal schools. I mean, he was taught by his parents. That's what parents need to do. It's your responsibility to teach your children. And the Wright brothers, when they needed information, they would write somebody. They had to write Washington to find out what the weather, where the winds were in the U.S., because they didn't know. They weren't meteorologists. So this is what they did. And I love those guys for it. And the analogies, the parables here between the Wright brothers and Jesus Christ and Paul and us, it's just right down the line. It's so wonderfully consistent with the way God operates. And we're the smartest ones. It's not boasting if it's true. You know this. It's so amazing. The people who come out of the institutions are stupider than when they went into the institutions. And I'm talking about religious institutions and centers for higher learning. I mean, they do learn specific things to fit them for specific gods, but overall they're dumber because they've been brainwashed really into the thinking of the world. They become friends with the world and they become respectable people. The intelligentsia. Oh boy, keep patting yourselves on the head. Keep patting yourselves on the back. We're God's intelligentsia, and we are diminished. We're ridiculed. We're mocked because we don't have a formal education. People say about me, what does this guy know? How can all the scholars be wrong and this idiot in the laundry room be right? Yeah. All these scholars are doing series on the book of Revelation. I look at them once in a while. I can't stand to hear more than 2 minutes of them. And they have maybe 15, 20,000 views. And they're full of crap. They don't have truth. They believe in eternal torment, of course. They believe in all the standard issue Christian crap. And they have great sets. I see these guys. They have lights, and I mean, I have lights too, but they're embarrassing. They're invading my space, which I like. I have lights, but they have sets and glowing blue stages, and they're accredited, and they have millions of views, and millions of people are being deceived by them. Here's me from my laundry room putting the truth out, and I have maybe 300-400 views a day, which is, I'm thankful for it, but it just tells you we're still at Kitty Hawk. We're still on Huffman's Prairie. I got some quotes for you from Huffman's Prairie in Ohio. That's where they perfected flight. Great stuff coming up. That's where we are. We're humble, we're unsung, but we're being incubated in the hiddenness under God's wing, educated by Him. And we are going to be used in the future for magnificent things. And the earth is going to go, oh, that's those guys?